Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Hey everybody, it's middle of October, heading towards November, and here on Freed on Business, that means it's book fair time. We interview a whole bunch of people. We got a great group of people coming. We're going to do one a week, more or less. And I want to thank, of course, the Miami Book Fair and Lisa Paley, who always helps us put all this together. And today we have a tremendous author and a tremendous story. It's got a lot of meaning to me personally and to our community. We're going to have Rosa Lowinger on. She's an art historian and art restorer, and also what I refer to here in Miami as a Jewban, a Cuban Jew. So she has a very unique perspective on the Cuban diaspora as well as Havana and Cuba, and restoring it to its historic luster, if that's possible. So we're going to talk to Rosa here today, and it's going to be a tremendous show. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our sponsors for the last 12 plus years. Warren Henry, thank you so much to Larry, Eric, Warren, Jack. Jack, I'll be calling you. Somebody needs a value on their car to just help them make a business decision. So we help our friends at Warren Henry, and Warren Henry helps our friends around the country. So lots of our friends go to Warren Henry. You should too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Now, Mr. Mendoza, let's bring on Rosa.
Hi there.
Hey, Rosa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. First of all, really nice to meet another member of the Jewban community. I, by marriage, am a member of the Jewish Cuban community. I actually asked my wife to marry me at her nephew's bar mitzvah while it was being held at the Cuban Hebrew congregation. So the whole topic today holds special meaning to me. Rosa, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your family and personal journey, and kind of what inspired you to write the book. And before we get started, I want to thank again Lisa Paley, the Miami Book Fair, and you're going to be there November 19th at 1 p.m., right?
That's right.
All right.
That's right. I'll be on a panel.
All right. Well, let's hear a little bit about you, a little bit about your family story, and a little bit about the tremendous book that I'm holding right here.
Thanks, Jim. So I was born in Havana, and I was one of the people who came very early in the 1960s with my family. I was a very young child, and I grew up in Miami Beach, first down in South Beach and then up in North Beach. And I went to the Hebrew Academy, and for about 5 minutes to Beach High, but then went back to the Hebrew Academy. And I was very eager to leave Miami when I was in high school. I just could not wait to get out of there because I just felt like I was an immigrant to the United States, and a privileged immigrant to the United States, as we Cubans always were. And I wanted to sort of see what the real America was like, one that wasn't sort of mired in nostalgia for another place. So I moved to the Northeast and then to California, and then I started, I always came back to Miami because my family and my brother are there. And over time, I started coming back and living in Miami half time. So I live in Miami and in Los Angeles now, and have a business that is in both cities.
Well, that's tremendous. And, your family's geographic path, Havana, South Beach, North Beach. My mother-in-law still lives in the North Beach section, with all her friends and folks that immigrated from Cuba with her. I know it's a whole community and multi-generational. I know many folks in there, and the stories are across the spectrum, but all tinged with a bunch of unease. Tell me a little bit about the portion of your title, because I'm going to go right to it. It says about Memoir of Art, Exile, and Repair. The art part we'll talk about because you're an art expert, but the exile and repair part I think is certainly the Exile part is direct, but the repair could perhaps be a double entendre and represent the repair of many things.
Exactly. And that was, so, when I left Miami, and what was interesting to me is that my parents, as you said, are Cuban Jews. And I recall that among my other Cuban Jewish peer friends, that very few were allowed to, especially the girls, very few of us were allowed to leave to go far away to college. Most of my friends went to Miami-Dade College, University of Miami, FIU. I don't think FIU was
not really a thing then.
Not really a thing. But Gainesville was the furthest afield. And I went to Boston. I went to Brandeis University, which struck me as shocking that my parents allowed this. But through going there, I fell into this unusual profession, which is art conservation and restoration, because I went to school to study art, which in itself was wild that my immigrant parents.
At Brandeis?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I was a liberal arts undergraduate, but I drew and painted always. That was my thing. And I studied art at Brandeis.
I've been to Brandeis. We took my Vivian's nephew to Brandeis.
Oh, cool.
And I have one Brandeis joke. Can I tell it?
Please, please.
When you go into Brandeis, it's a circle.
Yeah.
So when you go up the hill to the circle and you pass Judge Brandeis, the only turn you can ever make is left.
Indeed, indeed. Brandeis is a fascinating place, by the way. I didn't really recognize at the time what it was, but now that I've on this end of it, where I've become really knowledgeable about mid-century modern heritage, because that's kind of one of the things I know a lot about. The Brandeis campus is in itself a monument to mid-century modern buildings, so it's kind of a cool place. But I met a professor there who suggested that I consider studying art conservation, which I've never heard of it at the time, but I was really good at making works of art, but I had nothing really to say. To be a good artist, you don't just have to make things; you have to have something you're saying. So I became an art conservator. I went to the Institute of Fine Arts at New York University, and I trained to restore works of art. I worked at the Met. I worked in Philadelphia at a couple of museums, at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, but started private practice very early on in my journey and have a big one. I mean, I don't own it anymore. I've moved it on to the next generation, but I built a pretty big practice.
So let's take a step back and talk about that for just a split second. So there's these historic works of art, and they hang in museums, and people don't realize that occasionally they need to be touched up and I don't want to say updated, but certainly made whole again.
Yeah. Well, yes, in museums and also in private collections.
Private collections.
Private collections and also municipal public art. South Florida has extraordinarily good and good public art. World famous.
Thank you to Jeff Berkowitz.
Among others. Yes, there's a lot of great public art. And what what I say to my clients all the time is, listen, your coffee table needs dusting, your car needs washing. Why do you think your works of art are immune from that? If you have a coffee table that you don't dust for 2 years, imagine what that's going to look like. But people think their sculptures can be in their house and their paintings can hang on their wall and no one needs to ever just maintain them. So my firm, it's no longer my firm, but I still refer to it lovingly as my firm. I started a number of different practices. And the current iteration, which I started in 2008, quickly became one of the largest practices in the United States. And certainly I would think the largest woman-owned practice in the United States. We have 2 offices, Miami and LA, and employ about 25 people altogether. But could easily open practices in Dallas and Honolulu, but we just can't find the people. It's a tough moment. So we work for museums, municipalities, agencies, lots of private clients, and we work for, we also work very much in the disaster zone. So,
well, we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your personal journey. You grew up here in South Florida. I would assume that you had a similar perspective on Havana. I know there's a picture in here of you in the cemetery, the Jewish cemetery there. I had a friend who said the best business that you could ever be in would be to have a cemetery in Havana because everybody would pay to get buried there.
That's a good question. That's a good point.
But well, I'm in real estate. That's my real estate Havana joke.
There you go.
But there were some interesting things about the book, and rather than ask you about specific chapters, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the characteristics of the book. Your chapters are named after different, I guess, types of things you encounter in your work. Particularly, I mean, for me, terrazzo is as Florida and Cuba as it gets. But you've got other things in here. What prompted the names of the different chapters? And maybe you can delve into one or two that are your favorites and give the story that helped.
Absolutely. So this book arose out of my reading a different book, a memoir by an Italian Jew named Primo Levi, who wrote a very beautiful small memoir called The Periodic Table, that was about his family and his profession. He was a chemist, and each chapter in that book is an element. And I thought, when I read that book, I thought there is a book here about art conservation, because one of the things about our profession is it's very little understood. People don't really know what we do and where we fit in, because unlike architects or contractors, we're not licensed. So people don't really kind of get what we do. But what we do is we're the ones that are the experts in materials. So to give you an example, Vizcaya. Let's talk about Vizcaya because it's a building I've worked on many times. If they want to do a renovation at Vizcaya, obviously an architect has to design the plans. But if they're dealing with the historic materials, architects don't know about historic materials. You need someone who has the science and technical specialty to understand how to restore those materials in a way that will preserve them and not damage them. You know, that's one example. Marine Stadium. Let me just give you the Marine Stadium as an example, because I've worked on that building a lot. The Marine Stadium is covered in graffiti, as you know.
Yes, it is.
In order to remove that graffiti, your average contractor might just go in there with a sandblaster and just blast away, but it would destroy the building. So what we've done is we figured out how to get that material off safely. So anyway, that's the background to the story of why I wanted to write a book about art conservation. But I knew that, like Primo Levi, I had to wrap it in a story that was interesting to read. And I didn't know what that story was until it came to me in 2020.
So let's talk a little bit about that story. You know, things weren't that easy growing up as an immigrant in Miami. Your family, I'm going to say, carried baggage from their time in Cuba, not necessarily just the bags they brought, but it wasn't easy during the ramp down. I know that there was a lot of pressure on the community. A lot of the community was forced out. You came out earlier than some, so I grew up here, so they like to say that's when the doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs came out. Tell us a little bit about your family, the trials, and the motivation for them to come to America.
Well, you know, my family, like most of the Cuban Jewish community, was only in Cuba for a few generations. My grandfathers immigrated to Cuba in the 1920s when there were some strict U.S. immigration laws here in this country. So they came and they decided to stay in Cuba and built businesses and enjoyed life in Cuba, some more than others. My mother's father wasn't really successful and he was quite poor, but my father's father was successfully built a business. And then and in a country where anti-Semitism was really a very light motif. It wasn't really a thing. You know, it was a Catholic country, so there was always something, but it was not an issue. So the idea that you would have to uproot from this place that seemed like, you know, your home was very traumatic, and losing everything was traumatic. And for my mother, who had been raised in destitute conditions and found a modicum of solace when she married my father, who was, you know, had a wealthy middle class background, it was devastating. And so our life here was colored by a lot of stress and trauma and strain, and my father's attempts to go into business and not manage to make them successful. It was really hard on the family. So I just wanted to get as far away from all of that as possible. When you say, what was my relationship to Cuba as a Cuban exile? when I was growing up in Miami is I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted no part of it. Get me away. And that's what I did. But
well, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how you got reunited with Cuba and what that did. Mr.
Great.
Mendoza, work your magic. This is a personal topic for me today. It's a way for me to honor my wife and her family. I want to thank Rosa for coming on to the show today. I want to thank Lisa Paley for bringing her to our show. And of course, I want to remind everybody that she's going to be at the Miami Book Fair on November 19th at 1 p.m. I hope you'll all join us there at that event. And I'm able to give those thanks because of our major sponsor, Warren Henry Automotive. Warren Henry Automotive, I'm going to go off script. Warren Henry Automotive is a critical component of our community. I'm proud to be a brand ambassador for Warren Henry Automotive. I know for a fact that one of the reasons they support our show is that it's not just Freed on Business. They really enjoy the fact that we bring these cultural insights and personal stories whenever we can find them to our audience. And I know our audience appreciates them. Some of the biggest hits we have on our YouTube channel are these non-direct business interviews that we do. And the business part of this is I want to thank our sponsors at Warren Henry who've been with us for 12 of our 14 years. I think this is like episode 710 or something. I want to thank Larry Ismit, Warren, of course, my good friend Jack, who helps do the business end when I buy and lease my cars. They're all tremendous people. Gio, my personal salesperson, Maytal Stark, I'm going to see her tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, but Saturday, where I'm going to drop off my card. They'll give me a free loaner, but I'm already doing the spot, so let's do the spot. So whenever you're looking to buy or lease a car, you do want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar, and Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. Gainesville, that's the Audi store. They just bought a new the Chevy dealer in the Keys. Now I think they sell every brand in the Keys down at their Key West store. And of course, they've got their award-winning store for Land Rover, Range Rover, and South Dade. What do they all have in common? They're all great stores, all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry advantage, which I just alluded to earlier. I'm going to dip my toe into the Warren Henry advantage this weekend, where I'm going to drop my car off and get it serviced. I'm going to get my free loaner. If they find out that I need some additional stuff, they'll help me. For instance, polishing up my rims. I did scrape them, as I sometimes am want to do. I've in the past lost my keys. They're expensive to replace. The Warren Henry folks replace the keys, but I think more important and most direct is that they will make sure that you get the best value for your trade-in, the best price on your new car or lease. They will give you 3 days to make sure you like that car. You will, because they're tremendous cars. Nobody ever really returns their car after they buy it. So I really, really suggest that you join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian, my mom, lots and lots of my friends and clients, more every day. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Freed. I'm the founder of Sandstone Realty Advisors. We are at the cutting edge of real estate finance. Over the next few weeks, you'll hear me interview guests and provide you with updates on what's going on with our new joint venture partnership, if you will, with Oasis Pro Markets, where we're helping to bring Web 3.0 financing to the real estate syndication market, helping people lower costs, increase their operating efficiencies, and potentially bring in new investors. So reach out to me. Obviously, my business is helping people solve problems. Right now, the biggest issue in real estate is capital markets. So we're helping people bring new sources of capital to the capital markets. I'm also doing reverse mortgages with my good friend Ed Cairo. You've heard us talk about that on the show. I'm helping people do HELOCs and pulling money out and leaving their current residential mortgages, first mortgages in place. And I'm even helping one condo association with their financing their 50-year rehab. So those are all big problems in the marketplace today. You can see how I'm solving them creatively. And if you or your family, I'm also working with a couple of family offices to finance their properties that are free and clear. They're going to use the cash to help buy out some of the family members who want cash, not cash flow. So reach out to me, DM me. My personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by solving their problems and bringing them peace of mind. So reach out to me if you'd like some peace of mind. And remember, whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freedom Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Well, we're here today with Rosa Lowinger. She's the author of Dwell Time. And I think that that's actually another double entendre that she used. Maybe we'll ask her about the topic of that as well. Welcome back, Rosa. Thank you so much for sharing the Cuban Jewish diaspora story so far. Now let's take you back to Cuba. So you returned to Cuba. I know my father-in-law went back, saw all the property that they confiscated from him. It was a bittersweet moment for him. My mother-in-law still hasn't been back. High five to her for not wanting to deal with them. So you went back. What prompted you to go back? And when you went back, what did you find?
So I went back in the early 1990s because I was living here and there, and I was feeling very displaced. You know, I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, and in LA. I was feeling kind of a lack of home. And I started to understand, finally, in absentia, my parents' feeling of nostalgia and loss. And out of the blue, at the same time, I was perusing a conservation magazine and found an ad for a preservation conference in Cuba, in Havana. This was 92. The economy had pretty much collapsed with the departure of the Soviet Union, and they were trying to raise money by bringing in cultural travel. But it was like
which was the only type of travel that was allowed under the embargo at that time.
Correct. And like the thing jumped off the page and spoke to me. So I applied to go to the conference. I got in. I went in, and I was just blown away, because one of the things about Havana that you don't realize is that it's a city, since real estate development halted entirely in 1959. All of the historic fabric was there in terrible shape. Things were in bad shape, but as we say in the preservation field, as long as it's standing, you can rehabilitate it. But once the developers come in and they tear it down, then it's over. So I was really moved to see this country where you could kind of read the history of the Western Hemisphere in its architectural fabric like a pop-up book. And I decided to continue to go back to see what I could do for my part to help rehabilitate buildings, preserve them. Because listen, ownership, all of that kind of thing are problems that can be resolved. You know what I mean? But you can't resolve the problem once the building's no longer standing. And it's a country of extraordinary artistic and cultural wealth.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to dive too deep on that because I want the property back. But
and that's cool. I want mine. You know, I want mine too. You know,
we have the papers, the whole bit.
We don't, but
I'm sorry.
You know, that's all
right. So you've gone back to Cuba. I'm going to ask perhaps a bit of a question here. So you're rehabbing these buildings, making them look nice. What are you doing there with them?
I'm not doing anything.
What are you physically really doing there?
I'm not doing anything because the laws of the embargo have kept me from doing anything. I've never actually worked on anything in Cuba.
Okay.
So, however, I have, you know, since I'm an expert in a lot of these materials, tile, concrete, bronze, whatever, I do know a lot of people there. I do offer my opinion. I do offer assistance. The problem is it's very dysfunctional. So a lot's not being done. You know, things are done intermittently and piecemeal in whatever way possible. So I haven't really made any impact whatsoever. Not,
okay.
You know.
Okay. So
the desire has been there all along. And in part, one of the things my book is about is how much I've worked in other places as a substitute for Cuba.
Aha, you see, and that's what, so dwell time. I think I'm getting it now.
Now you're getting it.
You're waiting. You're waiting. And that's this, you're in the dwell time right now.
I'm in the dwell time.
There you go. I had to say it.
That's okay.
So, what do you see as the future? You're living part-time in Miami. I'm in real estate development. I haven't been involved with any building that's been torn down. Was involved with the redevelopment of Wynwood Yard, which was really nothing more than a placeholder anyway, but people saw it as a cultural thing, didn't realize it was temporary. What do you see as a couple of the iconic structures in Miami that really need to be focused on and saved? And please don't mention the fancy houses that the people are buying.
No. Well, I'll tell you a couple things.
You could, but that's just nothing we can do
No.
about it. Thanks. In fact, we can't do anything about any of this because of Tallahassee, can we?
Well, here's the thing. There's some really smart people doing really good work in Miami. I mean, to me, there's a lot of things that need to be saved. To me, the one thing that is unequivocal is the Miami Marine Stadium, because it is an iconic building by an important Cuban architect that brings the splendor of 1950s Havana architecture to Miami at the moment when Cubans came to Miami and changed the nature of the city. But more importantly, it's this. The juggernaut, the economic juggernaut that is Miami Beach, and with the Art Basel Fair and Miami turning into this arts capital, is a complete product of the renovation of South Beach. The Art Basel Fair would not be there if South Beach looked like Sunny Isles. That just would not happen. And it was preservation of that sector that created that economic opportunity and beauty of the city. So why is it so hard to see it for other parts of the city? I mean, that portion of Key Biscayne, of Virginia Key, and the stadium, other parts of the city with these gorgeous structures that just get torn down with impunity. To me, like, Miami is beautiful, and it's in part beautiful because it has this beautiful 1950s and 40s architectural heritage that is very special, and people come to see it. So I don't get why they just tear things down, you know? And
I see their pro formas.
Yeah, I mean, like, do we think Edgewater is nice? I mean, there's nothing nice about that area. It's just a bunch of gigantic high rises, soulless. I'm sorry, people might hate me for this, but you know, you need. Why do people go to Europe and think Europe is beautiful? Because the cities have their historic character. We all love to go to places like that, but we don't see it within our own, within our own sector.
It's very difficult to watch the transition. I see the skyline from my condo. I could literally tell how old the building is by how tall it is. When I grew up, well, let me rephrase it. When you and I grew up here, the pagoda on the top of City Hall was the tallest point. Then they built the AmeriFirst building. Now you can't even see the red spider on top of that.
Right.
So, that said, the world's tallest super talls are coming. They're changing the face of this. We're becoming the missing borough of New York. There's good and bad things with all of that.
Of course. Of course.
I mean, I live in Coconut Grove, the perfect 15-minute neighborhood. I used to live in Edgewater, which is a different dynamism. Brickell Avenue is really something else. And you can't even, I know people that moved to Brickell Waterfront and thought they were moving to the Brickell lifestyle portion, and they don't realize how far it is. So there's spatial relationships that are also important. We've only got a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
What I'd really like to do is I'd like you to tell me about whether or not you've resolved the issues that prompted you to write the book.
What a good question.
I'm good.
You are. So my book is about repair, and it's about family repair as well as how I learned to heal. Repair as a metaphor for healing. And, we got a world right now that is so fractured. It's not just on a family basis, it's the world, and it's gotten worse in the past 2 weeks, obviously. You got to believe in repair in order for it to happen. As a conservator, when you approach a project, I can approach the most complicated project, and I approach it without knowing that I can do it. Because if I don't know that I can do it, there's nowhere to start. And I think we have to feel that way about the people we love, about people we care about, and about big social problems that seem like they have no solution. We got to believe in the possibility of repair. And that,
I have one other. Oh, go ahead. I cut you.
No, that was it. That was it.
I have one other thing to add to your list. You have to learn to repair yourself too.
Totally. You begin there. That's where you have to begin.
Yes.
You don't get anywhere if you don't like do a proper inventory of yourself, which I hope I've done in this book. You get nowhere.
Rosa, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to remind everybody that you're going to be appearing at the book fair on November 19th at 1 p.m. I want to thank everybody. I want to encourage them. This is available. How can they find the book? Books and Books. Yep, I love Books and Books. I was there yesterday. I won't tell them about the sign in front, but I sure agree with it. So great meeting you here on the show. I want to thank the Miami Book Fair and our connection, Lisa Paley, who brings us the best guests. You're so tremendous, Rosa. I want to thank you. As much as I did this for you, I did this for myself and my friends that are Jewbans, and people don't realize the special genre of person from so many levels, so many families that were destroyed, so much was lost culturally beyond the financial part. Some people were able to rebuild their lives, others weren't. But I know that the diamond that I married to, that's a Jewban, is a special kind of person that is totally different than anybody I've ever met in America. She's really a special person. So this is also a tribute from me to her and her family. And I want to thank you for allowing me to do that today, Rosa. You're a blessing.
Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate that so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. We're going to take a break. If you want to stay around and talk in the green room after the show, I'm going to take a break. Then I'm going to come back, say a couple of things about some future shows, and then we're going to sign off. But you're welcome to stay. And if not, Rosa, I'm always around for a coffee. Cafecito.
Un cafecito, of course.
All right, Mr. Mendoza, show us the beautiful city Rosa's helping us shape.
Thank you.
You did that just for Rosa, didn't you, Mr. Mendoza? Because there was the Freedom Tower. I thought that was actually what she was going to say, is that's a very important architectural feature of our community that we must save. I agree with her. Also on the Marine Stadium, I remember going to concerts there. It's just such a great venue. I don't understand what's going on over there. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the last 12 years, Warren Henry Automotive. Thank you to Larry, Eric, Ismet. You hear me mention them all the time. To you, maybe just names, but to me, they're family, because I know I'm family to them. I'm going to see Maytal start today, Saturday, when I go get my car serviced. And remember, when you're looking to buy or lease that car, you do want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar, Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. Audi stores in Gainesville. They've got an award-winning Land Rover Range Rover store in South Miami. High five to Eric Day for that. And in the Keys, they just acquired the Chevy dealer, and they've got all kinds of great nameplates down there. They're all great nameplates. They all come with the Warren Henry advantage. That's a long list of services. I always start with the free loaner, which I'm going to have because I'm going to go see my mom while the car's in service. They've got other great benefits. They make sure that you're going to get the best price on your used car, the best price on the best value when you're turning in your car, your trade-in, the best price on the new car, lease or sale. They give you 3 days to make sure you like your car. You'll love it. You can turn it back if you don't. Nobody ever does that because they're such tremendous cars and great values. So join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian. You heard me talking about what a special person she is today on the show. My mom, lots and lots of my friends and clients. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hi, I'm Jim Fried. You heard me bare my soul a little bit today with Rosa on the show. I don't mind. That's a view into who I really am. I like to help people. I like to bring positive energy to situations. I like to help people heal and do good things. Reach out to me, DM me. I recently was blessed to have a family who I financed some real estate for a decade ago call me back and ask me to help them finance 2 lay-down real estate transactions. It was a true gift. I work with other families to finance their real estate all the time and capitalize their real estate transactions. I work with real estate operating companies from across the world to help them capitalize their real estate transactions. And in the coming days, you'll hear me announce and profile my new partners, Oasis Pro Markets. They are an alternative trading system that I work with to do real estate transactions. You'll hear how we're capitalizing transactions all across the world with investors from everywhere, helping people lower costs, increase operating efficiencies, and potentially reach new investors, both invest in institution and retail. So reach out to me, DM me. You can hear I'm kind of a thought leader in all these different places. Remember, my personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by solving problems and bringing them peace of mind. Let me do that for you. Reach out to me, DM me. And remember, whenever you reach out to me, I'm always all about you. Bye.
Welcome back to Fried on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Fried or at Fried on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Fried1. Now, back to your host, Jim Fried.
What a tremendous show. I really appreciated the kindness that Rosa brought to the show. I know the backstory. I've lived it for the last 35 years with my in-laws and my wife. It's something that most people don't realize. It's a cultural gem that we have here in South Florida. And I wanted to bring that perspective of South Florida's history to my audience, to you, my audience. Please tune in, keep your eyes open. We're going to be doing some very special guests. As I told you, where is it? I got a whole stack of the books that Lisa gave me. Oh, there they are. So we got all these authors still coming. Thanks to the book fair and thanks to Lisa for that. The week that we're not going to do the book fair, we are going to do the Oasis Pro Markets interview where I'm going to introduce my partners to you, my business community contacts. So keep an eye open for that. And remember, the person that wants to do something. Oh, I went too fast. I want to thank our sponsors, Warren Henry Automotive. I want to thank the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Study, the Bergstrom Center. They help make me who I am, and I'm very proud of them. And I'm very proud to mentor a lot of the young people that go through there. They're beautiful people all. And if anybody's looking to hire a young person, a bright person, give me a call. I got a whole bunch of them I can bring you. I want to thank Mr. Mendoza for doing the show here today with me. And I want to thank Lisa Paley and Rosa Lowinger and the book fair. And I want to remind everybody, we drop a live podcast every Wednesday at noon. Look for it. It's up on the Fried on Business website and all the social media places. We have a YouTube channel, the whole bit. I'm really modern about all that. I guess that sounded really obsolete by just saying that. Anyway, remember, my personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by helping them solve problems and bringing them peace of mind. Look for our new show next week. I'll be on. Why? Because I just love doing this, man. So remember, the person that wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen, just like Rosa, just like me, and just like you know how to do for yourself. Mr. Mendoza, rock the world.